legendary Coach Haynes here, and it's an honor and a privilege to be able to ask you a few questions today. So, I've been doing these interviews. I try to get some of this information from people about things that our generation didn't get a chance to see or experience.
Right.
So I try to get it from you all, and then having had the privilege for you to be one of the pieces of my puzzle. I like to say we are a puzzle, culmination of a bunch of pieces put together, and you one of the pieces of mine. So
right.
I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and hopefully we get a little bit more insight into what made Coach Haynes. So, how old are you now, Coach?
79. I'll be 80 my next birthday, first of the year.
Okay. So where were you born at?
I was born in Creola, outside of Moss Point, and moved to Moss Enterprise about at the age of 6. I went back up there, stayed with my aunt, and basically that's where I grew up. It was Enterprise, Mississippi.
How many siblings did you have?
12.
It's 12.
It's 12 of us, yeah.
Now all 12 were born in Creole?
No, Moss Point. They was born in Moss Point.
So prior to your family going to Creole, what do you remember as far as the family legacy? Where did you guys start from?
Rose Hill, Mississippi.
Rose
is where my grandmother came from.
Okay.
And my granddad, my mother's dad, stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was raised with his sister.
Mm-hmm.
She was from Enterprise, the Haynes there in Enterprise. And
is that Little Mother?
Little Mother.
Okay.
Little Mother, Uncle George.
Okay.
And they raised several sets of kids.
Okay.
So I was adopted at the age of 6, and I grew up there with 2 of my sisters and 1 of my brothers.
Okay.
Who was in Enterprise.
Okay.
So I stayed there basically until the age of 18, where I went to junior college up at Oklahoma, Mississippi. And
Okay.
from Oklahoma, Mississippi, start rolling in.
Okay. So let's go back to this childhood, because that's a kind of common theme that I noticed. You know my mom, you know my family.
Yeah, I know
You're
your
16
yeah,
of them.
16.
And my mom, I know she went and stayed with somebody in Bay Spring.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you had larger families like that, what was the reason that the children, was that to help? Because 13 is a lot, 16 is a lot.
Yeah, well, 12 is a lot too. But basically my mom, in the environment that we was in, she wanted me to go, I guess, back in the country where she was raised.
Right.
And she was raised there in Enterprise, and 4 of us. That's where we was adopted. And we grew up there and had all kind of experience in life right there,
So what was some of those experiences like? What was childhood like in Enterprise?
My childhood was like, I was the oldest in the family at the time, and so all the chores and stuff, was basically put off on me because my uncle was working. He worked on the railroad. So sometimes he would be off for a week, 2 weeks, or what have you, and that threw me to be, I guess, the man that was doing all this stuff around the house, keeping it up, like cutting firewood, seeing about the cows, farming a little area, or whatever it took. That's what I was doing on my growing up. So that was my early experience of life of, say, work, where I was up at 5 something in the morning, maybe milking the cows, taking them to the pasture, slopping the hog, feeding the chickens, or what have you. So that was my job around the house, to make sure that firewood was in there, getting up in the morning, making the fires for the stove, the heater, or whatever we had, and then going out, say, milking the cows and doing my chores before school. So basically, say I was the man of the house, huh?
Yes, that's what it sounds
I
like.
was the man of the house, yeah.
So let me ask you a question as far as the house. Describe the house for me. Because I've had some of these conversations. Did you all have bathroom in the house?
No, we had our house. At the time, so it was a 3-bedroom house with a dining room, and everybody had a living room. If you had a living room, you know, that was off limit to us. So not off limit, but you just didn't play in it. That was for, say, company that come to the house. And we basically had one room where I slept with my brother, and then my sister, they slept in one room, and then that was the room for my aunt and uncle. And basically that was it.
So we had an outhouse.
We had an outhouse.
So how did we heat the house?
Oh, well, that's where I came in. We had a fireplace in one room.
One room?
In one room.
Okay.
And that fireplace would furnish enough heat for the rest of the house. And then we had the stove where we did our cooking. And my job in the morning was, before everybody else got out of bed, if it was cold, I made the fire. I made the fire for the fireplace. Then I would go in and make the fire for the stove to cook, or whatever we was gonna have that morning. And then I was out doing my chores before going to school. So that was it. So my first chore in the morning was getting up, milking the cows. My next chore was taking them to the pasture, or getting them out, which was about, I'd say about 2 miles. And then I would have to come back, and I would eat, and then get ready to go to school.
How far was the outhouse from the house?
I guess it was about maybe 40 yards.
About 40 yards?
Yeah, about 40 yards from the house.
Okay. So in the wintertime,
In the wintertime.
how did the outhouse work? You still had to go to the outhouse?
Exactly.
Okay. What about at night?
At night, you had that pot.
Had a
Yeah.
pot. Okay.
Yeah,
Now
that
what was the pot?
They call it a slop jar.
Okay.
They call it a slop jar. So if you had to use the bathroom that night, well, you had one by your bed, and I guess every room had one, and then you get up and I guess you urinate or whatever. No, you didn't. At night, you probably just used, they call it a pee pot. But that's what you use at night if you had to get up before morning.
So was that a chore? Who had to take the pea pots out?
That wasn't my job, man. That was probably my sister's job, because she was the next oldest. Her job was the kitchen, you know, washing dishes and stuff like that. And in the morning, my brother would be in the bed, you know, because he was younger. And I guess he would just, he would be asleep. His job, I guess, was just to get up and eat and do, you know, the things, and then the bed was made up. I can't remember. I don't know if I had to come back and make the bed up or not, but I know the bed would always have to be made when we got up, you know. And if he was asleep when I left, then I guess I made the bed up when I came back in, you know. I came back in from doing the chores, yeah. That was it.
Did we have electricity in the house?
We had electricity. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we had lights to light the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, my great grandma, she stayed. You might know Rook Heller, the Helms out there. Well, she stayed all the way out there, and that's what we call the country. So she had, I can remember, she had a lamp, and they didn't have electricity out there for a long time, but later on they got it. They got it, electricity out there. But that was my experience with no electricity. And I can remember it being hot. And when we stayed out there like on the weekend, and all we did was raise the window and scuff it out, you know. That was it.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa used to get watermelon from Brook Hill, and out there they called it fellowship. Yeah.
But see, that was my thing. That was one of my chores too. Later on, is that we had the cows out there. After my great grandma died, left the place out there, and we just kept cows out there. And my job was to go out there on the weekend and make sure that the cows had feed the cows, and make sure that the fence was fixed, keep the cows from going out.
Keep the cows in.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you do all your chores, then you go to school. How'd you get to school?
Walk.
So we already walked 2 miles to take the cows to pasture.
But back then, you know, I guess I was in such good shape. It would always be a run, you know, and I can remember taking the cows and this big house down there. They had a bad dog down there, and like I knew if you would run, that the dog would come out. He would always come out barking, but if you was running, he would chase you. So I was slick, I guess, and I had a big stick in the morning, you know, that I would walk the cows down the road because they wouldn't allow you to run the cows. So I had to walk the cows, so I would walk them down the road. And when I passed the house, I would stash my stick over in the ditch. And when I would come back, I would pick it up, you know. And one morning I forgot that I forgot about the dog. And I came by there running, and the dog came out, man, and bit me smack in the butt. Bop, he bit me in the butt. And then when the lady came out, you know, like I was hollering like all outdoors, she came out and she wanted to check to see where the dog had bit me. But I wasn't standing for her pulling my pants down, looking at my butt. So I took that in, and that was my lesson about running by that house. But all my stuff was running, going to school. In the morning, we had shortcuts through the fields. And that was all my trip. Going to town, going to feed the cows and stuff like that. So I got where I could run all day. And actually I got my butt tore up one time because they said go feed the cows out in the country. And I got back so quick until they didn't believe that I had gone out there. So they put that little whipping on my butt and told me, said, get back out there and feed the cows. So instead of going all the way back out there, I knew I fed the cows. I just went out there and laid in the woods and waited for a while and came back. And they said, that's what you get for, lying.
Uh-huh.
So on Sunday morning, I guess we stayed about a mile, over half a mile from town.
Uh-huh.
And on Sunday morning was the big breakfast thing where my aunt would get up and, like, if we had biscuits, we would have biscuits, all the time, but that was our time to have syrup or whatever you have. If we had syrup and biscuit that morning, they would send to the store, maybe and get pork chops or something like that and cook. So one morning, they said, we need some pork chops. Go up and, did you ever know Mr. Brown's stove up there in Enterprise?
Right.
Well, you go, you go up there and tell them to put it on the bill or whatever. So they said, we need some pork chops real quick. And they said, go up to Mr. Brown and tell him blah, this and blah, blah, that. So I, bam, shot out the door. And when I got back and started walking in the back door, they said, we told you to go to the store and hurry back. I said, I've been to the store. And they looked at me like that, and they said, you went to the store that quick? I said, yeah. And then they started saying, you wasn't lying then about going out to that pastor. I said, no. And then they kind of apologized, for not believing me because I went uptown so quick and got that.
Right.
That was it.
So, school. What was school like? So, was it segregated or was it integrated when you went?
It was segregated, I started school in a church, and from the first grade, second grade, third grade, and I think the fourth grade, well, my first schooling was at the church, and it was like, I think our class was in the pulpit.
Really?
Yeah, and the principal's wife was Miss Owen, and I can remember her, just being a nice, petite, clean looking, and she was so proper, and that's why I got my first schooling was from her.
So in the church they had what grades?
Everybody was going to school there.
So 1st through 12th?
Yeah, I was going to school there.
So
you know where First Baptist Church is? Right there.
That church?
That
was
church was the school. And they just had, different sections in there. Not all, but we was in the pulpit, first graders. Then you had different sections, where different people was in. And that was it,
So did you go 1st through 12th then?
No. Clark County High School. They got, right now, it's the church in Moss Point. I said Moss Point. In Enterprise. You know where the hunters stay over there? That's where the school was, right there.
Okay.
That white building is the school.
But that still was a segregated school.
Segregated, right.
So you never were.
I never went to an integrated school. Quitman was the county seat. So when I first started going to school over there, it was like, it might have been from 8th grade through 10th grade. And 11th through the 12th was going to Shirley Orange High School in Quitman. But my 10th grade year, they brought the people back from Shirley Orange, the 11th and 12th, and then that's when they brought the 12th graders back, and then we went from, I guess, we didn't have no 7. I mean, 1 through, everybody went to that same school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the schools were segregated.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown, he was a white man on the corner store, right?
Right.
I know Rook Helen, white man on the
All right. You had Benny Crush. You remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had the one right across from the bus station, and then it was 2 more stores there. But when I was real young, it was several stores there, and then you had the movie right across from a Brown store, and that's where everybody would come in town on Saturdays, and you had the movie, then you had the little. In fact, the railroad station was there. And that was probably the biggest building at that time because everybody was traveling with on the train. And Highway 90 goes through right on the outside of the town there. And that was the only way that you could go north and south, but you had to come down Highway 11. So that was all the traffic going down Highway 11.
Right, going into Meridian and...
Go Meridian, from Meridian to Laurel,
right,
and on down to, say, the coast down
right,
there, all the way to New Orleans. It'd go all the way to New Orleans on Highway 11.
Parallel to 59.
Right.
Right.
No, it wasn't no 59.
Wasn't no 59.
No.
But now it's
59 going on through there, and Highway 11 is by Enterprise, and 59 bypass Enterprise. So before they put 59 on through there, all the traffic
went down 11.
was at 11. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How was race relations when you were younger?
It wasn't really no problem because I guess everybody knew their place, And as far as trouble or something like that, it wasn't any.
So I've heard that statement a few times. Everybody knowing their place.
Yeah.
What exactly does knowing your place mean?
Well, I guess all the old people would pass down to the young people of what to do and what not to do. And then it was very seldom that you had some kind of flare up or something like that, because if you was working on a place, then you wouldn't have to worry about, different stuff, because they was taken care of. Now, we didn't have no farm, and I would always go out and help. Through the summer, I would either go and find little jobs, or my aunt would find a job and come back and tell me, said, Miss so-and-so or Mr. so-and-so want you to help them do different things. And like picking cotton, like on the weekend, so-and-so is getting the cotton in, we would go pick cotton. If it was corn or what have you, he wants you to help him plow, like it was tractors and stuff like it is then,
Flying with a mule.
I can fly a mule, horse, or anything like that. Go out and get the cows, whatever, was done. That was my weekend. If I wanted to work, in which I was working all the time. So that was it. The only thing that my aunt would always tell him on the weekend is, say, have him in on Saturday, have him back by 12 o'clock, because we had a little baseball team and what have you. And she would always see that, if I was playing baseball through the summer, or we had the other team, then, I'd be free. And I was something like, if we had the games or something like that, I'll be the one that furnished snowballs and frying fish and all of that kind of stuff. That was my little job, man. Wasn't no job, but, I would see that it was set up,
Okay. All right, so we was talking about, started getting into sports. You said you played a little baseball. What other sports did you play when you were younger?
It wasn't nothing but baseball and basketball.
What age did you start playing?
I guess I played basketball. I played basketball in my backyard all the time, but I really didn't start playing basketball until I was playing basketball for the school, but we didn't have no gym. We played all our games on the outside. And I can remember growing up, I had a bad case of tonsillitis. And my tonsils would swell, during that. Man, I was sick. And my aunt, I wouldn't tell my aunt that I was really sick, because if she knew that I was sick and we had to play basketball, well, you played in those little short shorts, and you was playing on the outside, and that wind was so cold, and sometimes it'd be wet, and sometimes I would be so sick I couldn't hardly walk, but I wouldn't tell her because I knew she would make me quit. And this went on and on, I guess, until I can remember from the 9th grade, from the 10th grade. 10th grade, I was about 5'9", and that summer I worked from daylight almost. It wasn't dark, but when I got through working during the day, I had to do my chores, and by the time I got to doing my chores, it was dark. But like I said, I had my own basketball goal set up, and a back light on the back porch where you really couldn't hardly see. But the only thing that you could see was the silhouette of the goal. And sometimes I would stay out there 12, 1 o'clock, just messing around out in the yard shooting. And back then, you didn't have the proper material, so I would get the boards from anywhere I could get them to fix the backboard. And then sometime, when my rim would break, I would use a bicycle.
Bicycle rim.
Bicycle rim. And then after I got up a little size, I can remember getting about basketball rim for Christmas. But I always wanted the net on it, and a net. So I craft making my nets, and what I would use was these strings off of hay
Hey,
bale. And you know, they wouldn't last long. But I got where I could fix it in no time at all. So when my nets would break, I would fix me another one.
Mm-hmm.
And at night when I was shooting, well, I couldn't really see the rim. All I saw was the backboard.
Mm-hmm.
And I would shoot and just run, back it up, run to the net and pick it up, you know. But, and then before that, like I didn't have nobody to put my rims up or my nets up. I can remember just cutting a pine tree down and not knowing how high it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime it'd be 12 feet. Sometime it might be 13 feet. But when I put it up, I couldn't pick it up out of the hole, so I just let it stay up until the pole rot and break, and then I bring it back down and try to get it down to 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember not being able to find the material. So I just put a rim up on a pole, like no backboard, no nothing, just a rim. And I would just shoot. And in some of that, my 10th grade year, the biggest disappointment I had was from my basketball coach, I guess. And at the time, you know, guys was old. And really, I found out that guys in my class was sometimes 2 and 3 years older than me. But I didn't know it at the time because you just went to school. And the guys that was going to school, they would go to school until they finished. Sometimes they'd be 20, 21, you know, like that. But I never paid any attention to it. And I found out later that I was probably one of the youngest people in the class. And a lot of times that the guys that come in on the weekend talking about what they did on the weekend, and they be talking some stuff like, really? You know, like maybe doing stuff, man, and I guess I'll be at home asleep or something like that. But we would take and have games like a fellowship, you know, a fellowship, Stonewall, and Morton and DeKalb and all those places around there. But the only way they could go to games is they could go in cars, right? And so if you had 2 minutes for the car, then that was it. And I guess the biggest hurt that I had doing playing back then is we all got ready to go to the game, and I was one of the last ones to get to the car, but the car was full. And the coach told me, he said, oh, you stay at home. And I said, I can get in there. He said, no. He said, you ain't gonna play no basketball, no way. He said, really? He said, you too skinny. And you know, that was one of the biggest hurt I just took and took that. And I can remember going home, you know, crying like some kind of a baby, you know, because I wasn't able to go. And when push come to shove, you know, like after we finished, and I really didn't have no scholarship, but I just followed 2 guys to school, and we went to Oklahoma Junior College. But between my 9th grade year, 10th grade year and 11th grade year, I grew 6 inches. So when I finished school, I weighed about 161. 61 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed those guys up there, and I made the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always thinking, wow, like the guys that he thought was gonna make it, they didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the team. And when I got back, I went by to school, and he was the first one to yell out, and I knew you was gonna make it. Man. I knew you was gonna make it. I knew you were gonna be a good ball player.
Mm-hmm.
But all through high school, man, it was like rip,
Mm-hmm.
just rip that.
Mm-hmm.
I made it.
So that coach. So let me ask you this while we on that subject. Where do you think your coaching style came from? Is there a coach in your past that you can attribute your coaching style to?
Not really. When I got to Oklahoma, in high school, wasn't any fundamentals really taught about stuff, and I would just pick stuff up from different players. And I think I always mentioned to you guys, I said, when you go to a gym and play, you got to go like Santa Claus. You got to have a bag on your back with your stuff in it that you're going to pass out.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, if you see somebody out there on that court that's got good moves or shooting real good, I said, you take and put it in your bag, and when you get back, you work on it.
Uh-huh.
So that was me. If I went and played against somebody, in practice, sometimes we would go in the gym at 7 o'clock and we'd come out at 12.
Mm-hmm.
And we wouldn't do nothing but run fast break.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't no pick and roll.
Mm-hmm.
It was just getting up and down the floor. And sometime, after we would practice those hours, then we had to run sprints.
Uh-huh.
Now, you think now from 7 to 11 or 12,
Yeah.
all you did was rip and run and shoot. And the philosophy of the coach, I found out real quick. Now, we had some guys 6'6", 6'7".
Uh-huh.
I think the biggest guy we had was 6'8". His philosophy was, if you were down the floor, shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So I could run. So, man, I'm just gone on, boom, down the floor. I'm shooting. So this is my freshman year. So all the big guys, if you wouldn't be down the floor, you would never get no shots.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we was running was a fast break.
Mm-hmm.
So that was at first. Now, those big guys knew if they didn't get on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't get no shots.
Mm-hmm.
All they did was playing. His thing was, say, if you're down the floor and you're by yourself, he said, shoot, because you got 4 people behind you defending.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys, man, they were ripping around the floor. We averaged something like 106, 107 points a game my freshman year.
Oh yeah, I was running gun. Mm-hmm.
He was running gun. And sometimes the guys would always come back and ask me, say, man, you playing 6-man? I said, yeah. They said, man, how do you come in the game shooting the way you shoot? And I said, I just told him, I said, I'm hot all the time. I said, I'm hot all the time, so I would sit on the bench and wait.
Uh-huh.
Because I knew I was going to go in the game sooner or later, 6-man. And so when the game would stall, man, coach would he'll look at me and, you know, I'll be looking at him, but when he didn't ever want me, he didn't ever want to put me in the game when I was looking at him, you know, so when the game was stalled, I'll be looking at him, and he kind of look at the corner of that right there. Then he'll say, you go in the game, you know. When I went in the game, man, I was just like a fly or a spider web, because I averaged 19 points a game my freshman year just coming off the bench, you know.
Yeah.
So it was all fun, man.
So, but now here's one thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this, because you got a lot of your former players that want to know this type of information. So you saying your coaching style was designed by you? You didn't have nobody, no example, because when we, you know, I'm 48.
Yeah.
I probably responded to that whistle until I was about 35 years old. Somebody whistle in my head will automatically snap around. And you was the king of the cliches.
Yeah.
I remember if you called somebody off the bench to go in the game and they took too long, you'd be like, sit down. Give somebody else.
Yeah, you didn't want to play. You had to be ready all the time. And I can remember, you know. Just think now, my practice was run just like a game. And you know, like, if I practice it one way, it's gonna be that way in the game. And I want you to remember this, see if you can remember this. In my practice, I had the JVs and the varsity, right?
Uh-huh.
Did I ever say, you, and you get on the floor? I never said that, right? You know, I would say, if we were starting a play, I would say, give me 5. And I would practice that 5, and I would say, all right, give me another group. It would never say, you're going to be a starter, you're going to be a starter, you're going to be a starter. Even when the game time came, I said, let's go. Boom, 5 guys. The guys always knew who's supposed to have been on the what? On the floor. So I wouldn't have to say Thomas, Marcus, Bob's daughter. I just said, okay, give me 5. And automatic, the 5 that's supposed to have been playing would be out there. And I can always remember Guckort and Bert Jenkins. Bert Jenkins told me after he retired, he said, Haynes, he said, I wouldn't tell you this if I was still coaching. But he said, we didn't never know who was going to start when we played you. And I said, it was always the guys that was doing the right thing in practice. And that it might be this guy doing the job this week, but he's not doing it the next game. Well, even if you started and you were doing what you were supposed to do, I would never say, you go in there and get so-and-so on. I said, get him out of the game. And everybody would jump on the bench and like zip, one go in the game. Well, I felt like that guy that wanted to go in the game knew what he was supposed to do, and he knew what you wasn't doing. So he's going to go in there and improve that. And my thing in practice was, everybody was saying, you take him out for making that one mistake. And I would look at them and tell them, I said, no, I'm taking him out for making the same mistake. Now, if you can remember, I said, if you can take one thing you're doing out of the game, mistake, I said, then you're going to do what? you're going to keep taking that mistake out.
Uh-huh.
I said, if you make a new mistake, I said, I'll tell you, you made that mistake, and I'll tell you how to do it. But I said, if you're making the same mistake, I'm taking you out the game.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime in praxis, you know, like, I say, I can talk to you and stop you in praxis and tell you what you did wrong. But I said, in the game, I said, I can't stop the game to tell you, say you did this wrong. You gonna know that you did it wrong because you coming out, you know.
Yeah.
So that was it. So all the parents be hacked off with me about pulling somebody out of the game real quick. But that was my thing right there, you know.
Coach, them practices was brutal. You break them down in practice. That's why I tell people, like, right now, I'm able to stay in shape. Because I said, yeah, you have to understand that I used to play for Coach Haynes. But he'll break you down to the least common denominator.
But see, the only thing in practice is that I never seen a man that was tired beat another man that was in shape.
Okay.
So I've seen guys get tired and just throw up their hands, right?
Uh-huh.
So my thing was that you'll never let tired beat you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I got
You'll
you.
never let tired beat you.
I got you.
And as long as you're not tired, you're going to fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, I was always accused of, you know, like, say, Haynes, they said you won last night and you came back in here the next day. And, well, I can remember Latero asking me one day, he said, we was at practice and we was working real hard. And he said, Coach. I said, yeah. He said, we won last night. And I said, I know it. He said, well, why are we practicing so hard? I said, my practice is like this. I said, I'll tell you how to do this and I'll tell you how to do that and you get it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to do? Just stop? Just stop you right there. At that point, I said, when it get where I can't push you higher,
Mm-hmm.
then I said, I want you to kick me in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I teach you how to go to that corner, top of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and let you just stand there, because you made it to the mountaintop,
Mm-hmm.
you can't go no further.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm going to push you until you either jump off the house or you're going to come back. You're going to fight your way back
Mm-hmm.
by expanding your game.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what I would do, I could always see something else that you could do better.
Mm-hmm.
So now it seems like I'm on your butt all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm steady pushing you to another point.
Mm-hmm.
So if you walk to the kitchen, to the refrigerator to eat,
Mm-hmm.
and you eat up everything in that refrigerator, what you gonna do? Just stand there and look. You gonna do what? You gonna go try to find some more food.
Right.
So hey, that was the game right there.
Okay. So part of your process was mentally conditioning your players, as well as the physical part.
Yeah, that was it. You mentally, if you tired, you gonna think about what? Just being tired.
Being tired.
But if you in shape, all you gonna think about is how you gonna beat somebody up, or how you gonna do this, or what you gonna do next. But once you get tired, you stop right there. And that's it.
Yeah.
I've had coaches, you take Lewis Smith, Lewis Smith was one of the worst. He's probably one of the worst practice people I ever had in a gym.
Uh-huh.
But when the lights came on, you could not run him.
Uh-huh.
You could not shoot him. You could not dribble him. And it was just like a new speed. But practice, man, if you saw him in practice, you would thought he was, man, one of the ball players that sorriest ball players in the world.
Uh-huh.
So when Lewis Smith come in the gym, a lot of times in practice, I just hit the bleachers
Uh-huh.
and let him run practice time.
Yeah.
But when it came to game time, man, it was like somebody turned the lights on there, you know.
Okay.
And that was it.
So we're gonna. I know you coached at how many high schools total did you coach at?
4.
4. Okay. So we're gonna deal just with Moss Point first.
Right.
Who would be the 3 or 4 best players you coached at Moss Point during your time at Moss Point? Talent wise.
You know, I have that question all the time.
Uh-huh.
And so I got there when my first team was Ernie Bonds, Glenn Green, and that bunch. So at the time, you know, MacArthur
Mm-hmm.
and Reggie Colley. So I got a chance to coach Glenn Green 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that was my first class, so he would have been the best ball player in that bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But then MacArthur and Reggie Colley.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come on down the line, you had Latero,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Sears. You know Michael Sears?
Yeah, I know Michael Sears.
To me, Michael Sears probably one of the better shooters that ever came through there. Bar none. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. So, okay, who you got after Michael Sears?
Michael Sears.
So you said Green,
Yeah. Latero.
Kylie,
Yeah. Yeah, Ernie Bonds.
Ernie Burns.
Yeah,
Then you got Michael Seals,
yeah,
Latero.
yeah.
So who else you got from Moss Point?
You talking about I'm just talking about people. Yeah.
Ball players, talent.
Well, then you come down to Booker.
Mel Booker.
Well, see, Melvin was actually Melvin averaged something like 27.
Yeah.
Okay, now, but the main ball player on that team did not play basketball. He was a footballer that came out and played maybe a couple of years. I had him in sophomore year, and they persuaded him to play football. And then he came back his senior year and played. You don't even know who it was.
I know who it was.
Who?
Kelly Steele.
Exactly.
So, Coach, I try to tell people they don't understand that team, when school senior year,
Yeah.
was an awesome team, because what people can't account for is Kelly
Kelly
with that
Steele.
left hand shot.
Kelly Steele would have been a Division I ball player, but he chose football. And if he had played 3 years like Melvin, it would have been people falling over to get him.
Yeah.
And I get a chance to tease him all the time now. My thing was, Kelly, messed up. That's all I had to tell him.
So I wanted to wait till you said Melvin because uh, Melvin's daddy, Scooter daddy,
Yeah.
said the best shooter to ever come through Moss Point is Michael Seals.
He said that.
That's what Scooter daddy. He said, now my grandson is Devin Booker. However, the best shooter to ever come through Moss Point is Michael Seals. That's what he say right now today.
Michael Seals might have been not average wise, but Michael Seals was best shooter. You know, you the first one that ever had an interview like this, man.
Really?
Nobody else really cared a hoot about the interviews.
I don't know why.
If I got something, it was negative. It was negative, man.
Coach, you got a lot of us love you. We love you.
Yeah.
I want you to get your flowers while you're still here.
But see, the only thing about this, Thomas, is that I never enjoyed a season because there was so much stuff going on. And I was too busy fighting to get my stuff, not, it's like I would always tell them, I say, I don't want you to give me nothing. But don't do my boys the way you do them on the floor because they practice 7 days a week.
And on holiday. Coach, you remember you had us practicing on Christmas?
Morning.
So did you really forget or you knew that was Christmas?
That was one of my schemes. Listen to this. A lot of times, we wasn't near as good as the other team talent-wise, but we outworked them. Now, I'm sitting right here in Dayton, Thomas. I never had a vacation. I never had holidays off. But you practice, it's much 7 days a week. If it wasn't practice, we were playing. On holidays, we was always what? Off playing the tournaments.
Right.
Or right after Christmas or Thanksgiving, we was gonna play.
Right.
So while everybody else was sitting up eating turkey and enjoying that day and had to come back and play the next day after Christmas, they won't be out of shape.
Not us.
Nope, not us, because tired would never beat us.
Right.
And lack of work would never beat us. And it was like, I knew what was going on, that we wasn't going to get a fair shake, really. And you just think now. I can go back and say, over half our game loss was because of something else.
To that point, I remember, so I'll ask this first. Do you think it was a racial component to the way we were refereed when we played teams, or what was it?
They was after me.
They just didn't like you.
No, they said I tried to bully them, but I was never one to just sit back and say, that was a bad call, or you're not calling the game the same. And I would let them know it. Not after that, but I let them know it right then. Because when it comes down to official aid, you got to know the rules. You got to know what you can do and what you can't do. You got to know when it's a call made, if it was an honest call, a referee's whistle should be just like somebody sticking you with a pen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
If I stick you with a pen, you gonna holler ouch, or
Mhm.
you gonna jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I stick you with that pen and count 1,001, 1,002, and then you jump,
Mm-hmm.
then it didn't hurt, or you didn't feel it, or you thinking about
Mm-hmm.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So when a foul is made or violation is made, it's like a tick, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always tell when it's pick and choose. When it's called this way on one end, and then on the next end, it's a hesitate and a call, or it's a quick call,
Mm-hmm.
and you know it was wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or it's a quick call, and you are looking for something to call.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that. And from day one, I worked at Ed Mayo for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to Ed Mayo, it was like everybody wanted to play Ed Mayo because they knew it was what? Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
I call it homecoming when you can just play a team and you know you're going to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And it got where at Ed Mayo where nobody wanted to play you. So in football, it was like everybody was beating Ed Mayo when we went out there. And then all of a sudden, they didn't want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, any school or anybody could send off a birth certificate,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd send it to them. So they was always accusing us of playing kids too old.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this out later on that this coach from Pascagoula told us, said, man, they said, you guys was so good and so hard till we would send to Jackson to get their birth certificate to make sure that it wasn't old enough. So it got that way in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if a team scored 20 points in a game in junior high, they was happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, we played so much defense out there until didn't nobody want to play. We would play faculty games, and the faculty would say, Haynes, man, pull them off, man, you know, they playing the defense. So I coached out there for 9 years, and it wasn't a day that I didn't think about getting a job at the high school. I went up 2 times and didn't get the job. And finally, Coach Miller called me up one day and asked me did I want the job, you know, and I had been through so much stuff trying to get the job until I asked him, you know, I said, you got to coach up there. When he asked me that, he said, do you want the job? And I said, yeah, I want the job. And he said, all right, you got the job. But I had been through so much stuff. First thing I asked him was, do I have to put in an application? He said, no. But all the other times, you know, application, blah, blah this and blah, blah that.
Mm-hmm.
So he gave me a job up there. But you asked me about my coaching philosophy and stuff like that. If I had been smart, I would have been rich.
Mm-hmm.
Because the stuff that I was doing back then, it was a long time before it came out. I can remember drills And I was always thinking, like I told you about pushing you to a certain point. It's how to improve, how to improve, how to improve all the time. So I had a bunch of little kids, 7, 8, and 9th graders, that really wasn't big enough to put the ball above the rim. And they were shooting it just high enough to get it to the rim and jamming it in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, I had some broke rims back there.
Mm-hmm.
And the shop teacher was always, in the gym and doing things over there. So I designed the rim. I cut an inch out of the rim
Mm-hmm.
to make it smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So a normal rim is 18 inches. So I had that one down to what? About 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had him to put some stands on it, 6 inches higher.
Mm-hmm.
So now the rim is 1 inch smaller, 6 inch higher.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you practice shooting that ball 10 feet
Mm-hmm.
and sticking it in the corner that goes, that means that you're going to have to do what? 6, 7 inches higher,
Right.
putting it up there.
Right.
So now you're going to practice on that goat every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you got to a normal goat, which was 6 inches lower
Mm-hmm. And an inch wider.
and an inch bigger,
Mm-hmm.
hey, it's a difference.
Right.
Now, when I put that goat up there 6 inches higher
Mm-hmm.
and smaller,
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't just throw the ball at the hole. You had to shoot the ball at the hole.
Right.
Plus, you had to put backspin on it.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I put it up there and they still shooting a flat ball. Well, you could make that. So now, how am I going to get them to spin the ball out? So, I knew if you put the ball in the palm of your hand, it's going to come out what? Flat.
Flat. Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to stick. And you had to have it up in your fingertip.
Right.
And, your index finger is the last one to lead the ball.
Right.
And I taught it saying, shoot. Play cowboys and shoot. You're going to take your hand and stick it out like that right there, that finger. So now that finger is the one that
Mm-hmm.
last one lead the ball. So it's going to have to go. You have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you just bring your hand up normal, you're going to feel comfortable bringing up that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got ready to shoot, you're going to have to turn the palm of your hand to the goal.
Right.
And I always taught them that you're going to feel a little swing right here
Mm-hmm.
when your hand is turned to the goal. So now I needed something to make them keep the ball up in the palm of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, back then you had home economics,
Mm-hmm.
and they sold, and I would always throw those spools in the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down there and I got all the spools out of the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Came back, put the spool in the palm of the hand,
Mm-hmm.
ran me a string through it,
Mm-hmm.
and fixed it where that spool would move here,
Mm-hmm.
here, here, and then around your wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can't bring that right there.
Mm-hmm.
You got to open the palm of your hand,
Right.
and the ball is up in your fingers.
Right.
So now you have backspin.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spin it out.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, you see all these guys in pro and all of that, looking, shooting free throws, and they are throwing it at the hole. They're shooting it at the middle of the hole, but they're not looking at the front of the rim or looking at the side when they shoot. They're looking at the hole and shoot. Now, you see a lot of air balls. That's because they are looking at the goal and trying to throw a ball over there instead of looking at the rim. Now, what you're really doing when you shoot, they are looking at the rim and they are trying to do this, throw it to the hole. But think now, what's judging the distance from that rim to where you are? You're looking at it. And your body, something is controlling your body to make you know that that's how far that is. What is that?
You always taught us front of the rim.
You know why?
Why?
I said look at the front of the rim and shoot up. Now, if you look at the front of the rim and shoot up, you ain't got to worry about nothing but looking at the rim and shooting up. Because right there is telling you how far it is. So right there is controlling every muscle in your body. So you just look at the rim and shoot up.
Spin it over front of the
And
rim.
it's gonna be right there.
You tell us that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it, Thomas. The goal, that pad in your hand, and the return net. I would always use, I would go down and get me a fish net, a shrimp net, and fix it. And those fence posts, the fence top of a chain link fence, I would get that rail and fix it on the outside of that goal and put that net on that rail. And all you had to do was stand and shoot, and it would return right back to you.
Automatic return.
Automatic return. So that, yeah, you know.
You missed out on some money.
You missed out on 1, 2, 3. Now this was back in the early 60s. I mean 70s. In the early 70s, I was doing all of that. And you asked me where did I get mine? You asked me where did I get my philosophy of coaching? Is that I mastered that in junior high. And I mastered it with that bag that I on my shoulder.
Okay.
And you take right now, everybody was doing the same thing. It's like I used to go to coaching clinics, and guys be sitting up there listening to Bobby Knight and all of those guys, and going back and trying to do what they said do. And I sit up there and I look at him and I was laughing at him. And I said, man, I said, you gonna try to do what Bobby Knight do. Everybody is trying to do what the champion, national championship is doing. You take, like, you look at TV right now, every one of them is running the same offense. Every one of them is doing the same thing. High pick and roll, blah this and blah that. I never done what everybody else was doing. Whenever you saw my offense, it was like, it was Haynes. Now, nobody is not doing what I'm doing. So, when you got ready to play me, you got to do something different. Or I'm going to be throwing something different at you. And it's not going to be the convenient thing. Like right now, I develop an offense over here where if you played me man to man, you were going to get beat. If you played me pick and roll, you're going to get beat. And I developed where anybody on the team could set the offense up. And wherever the ball is on the floor coming down, it was like you go right into your offense. Because everybody's running a lane. Everybody is know what to do. If the ball is in the middle of the floor, now they run the ball down the side of the floor. You run the ball down the side of the floor, all people's got to do is run straight through and pick it off. And anytime you pass the ball flat, you're supposed to be going back the other way. So I developed where you're going to either pass it 45 down or pass it 45 up. All the coaches are used to one man setting the plays up. My center come down the ball. If he got the ball, wherever he got the ball, if he got it in the middle of the floor, you the guard. Because the way they're playing now is the big people what? Is shooting outside.
Shooting outside.
So now my offense is developed where everybody can shoot three. Everybody can go in the post, or everybody's cutting back door, or everybody's 45.
So let me ask you this. What position did you play?
Play guard.
So we talked about your junior college. You say your freshman year you averaged 16 or 19? 19. Sophomore year.
I averaged something like 16.
Then you went to Valley. Where'd you go?
I integrated. That was my first integrate. I went to Haynes University in Abilene, Texas.
Okay. Did you play basketball there?
First black to play out there. Boom, you didn't know that.
Look at that.
You didn't know that, did you?
So what?
That was the first year, my sophomore year was the first year, man, of integration, and that was in '63. And we had played, and the white coaches started coming, you know, they wanted to start integrating, they was picking players out. And I was supposed to be going to Utah. And they came through, and coach came over and one day he said, Haynes and Mackins, Nate, he said, you guys want to see you guys play, going out to the gym. So they took us to the gym, and we went down there and we played, you know, half court. You know, these guys just wanted to see me. So Lou Henson, you know who Lou Henson was?
Wasn't that Arizona head coach? Lou Henson? Illinois, right.
Well, that was his first year. He was in high school, and he took the job at Hardin Simmons. So it was a guy from Ole Miss that was going to be his assistant. His name was Gray. So we went down to the gym, and Nate and myself and the rest of the guys. So Lou Henson wanted Nate. Gray wanted me. And so they finally decided to say, let's take both of them. So that summer, we went up to Lanark, Illinois. We told them, you know, that we needed to have a job, so we went up there and we worked on a pea farm. So after that, we went to Hardin Simmons. There was no blacks that ever played there before. But they had a football team. They had a basketball team, but it was sorry. And so Henson came down and picked us up from the bus station. Football team was practicing, it was August. So when we got there, all the football players was there. They ate in the gym. They feed them in the gym. So the gym was full of football players.
Mm-hmm.
So when we walked in and they introduced us, say, these guys gonna be playing basketball, the whole football team got up and walked out.
Mm.
So I stayed out there and I played a year. And like the town, man, it was the only blacks there was somebody on the army base out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had 2 or 3 more blacks start going to school there, but they didn't play no sports.
Mm-hmm.
So really we didn't have nobody to, you know, talk to or nothing like that. So it was always in our room. And so Ambrose came out there. He was another guy on the team. He just came out there because of me and Nate, but he played basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate and Ambrose would always be arguing about who could beat this, and so tennis and table tennis and anything like that. He was arguing, so I would always sit back and look at him. They'd be arguing about this, and then at 12 o'clock at night, man, they might get up. We might get up and go out to the tennis court.
Mm-hmm.
So we was entertaining ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one day, it's in the spring, we was there, and they started talking about they could do this and that right there, throwing the javelin, shot, and all this, and high jumping and all that. So I would always be around with them, you know, and I'd listen at them, then, you know, like they say, Haynes, what can you do, you know, and then I'd get them, kind of repeat. So the track was next to the field house.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the coaches would be on Sunday, you know, but we didn't know they was in there. So the day we was out there messing around that evening, we didn't have nothing to do. We was throwing the shot, the javelin, Nate and Ambrose jumping hurlers and stuff like that. So when they finally got to the high jump pit, you know, like, I was sitting up looking at them, and they was over there. They was scuffing around on 3 sticks and stuff like that, you know, and I was laughing at them. So they said, man, what you laughing at? You can't jump. But see, they didn't know that I had high jumped in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, the world's record was 6'7".
Mm-hmm.
And I jumped 6'4"
Mm-hmm.
in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I didn't go no higher, it wasn't no more up there.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them, you know, I said, okay. They was at jumping. I said, man, I said, put it on 4 feet. 4'6", something like that. And they said, they was cursing. You can't jump that, blah, this and blah right there. So I just got up off the bench and went over there and I jumped it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I jumped it, we heard the windows whack. And then, you know, we looked over there. So all the coaches was looking out of the window.
Mm-hmm.
So the track coach was in there. He said, you boys come over here.
Mm-hmm.
And he came over and talked and said, how come y'all won't go out for track?
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, Nate and Ambrose, no. And he said, what about you? You high jump. Have you ever high jumped before? And I said, yeah. I said, I high jumped in high school. They said, how high did you jump? And I said, 6'4". 6'4"?
Hmm.
They said, come out. Why don't you come out here and jump for us? We ain't got nobody can jump 5 feet. I said, okay. So I went out to the track meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did something like 6'3".
Mhm.
in that meet.
Mhm.
But it was spring, right?
Mhm.
And we hadn't been home all year.
Mhm.
So we had this guy from Amory, which is right outside Oklahoma,
Mhm.
that had a car. He was coming home. So Nate and Ambrose said, we're going to go home with Billy.
Mhm.
So after that meet, the guy said, we're going to have a meet next Saturday and we want you to go. So I had already participated in another meet,
Mhm.
and I had done something like 6'4", and he wanted me to stay there until, and not go home.
Mhm.
So I said, okay. So Nate and Ambrose, man, oh, they was some kind of giddy. And back then, we wore each other's clothes, man.
Mhm.
So if you were going home this week, that's when we was in junior college, and I had a suit or something, shot to wear, which we didn't have that many clothes. So it was four of us in a room in Oklahoma, and we just, you go home, blah this and blah that. So our thing was that if you bought a new suit
Mhm.
and came back, after the break,
Mhm.
Nate be sitting up like, I got your suit next week when we go home.
Mhm.
He claimed my suit, so I couldn't wear it.
Mhm.
So if you had a sweater or something like that, say, I got your sweater, so and so and so and date. We had always had it fixed up.
Mhm.
So Nate was sitting up there, man, he had claimed all my clothes he was going to take home. So Ambrose was there. Ambrose, he couldn't wear my clothes. But me and Nate could just switch clothes out.
Mhm.
And man, they was having so much fun. Talking about, I'm going to this here room. This here right there, right there. I'm sitting up there, man, sick because I wasn't going. So when I'm sitting up there, I said, man, I'm going to.
Mhm.
I left. So I think I was going to buy the gas. I bought the gas going. Guess how much we spent?
Going and coming?
Going.
Engaged.
In 63.
It's
64.
64.
64.
64.
Start guessing. There was a gas war going on in Texas. The gas was 3 cents a gallon.
3 cents a gallon.
So I think I paid $1.50 to buy the gas from Texas all the way back to Mississippi.
Ooh.
So we got back. So we came on, and I went to Oklahoma and spent some time up in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Came back home, went back, caught the ball. We all went back. So when we got back, man, everybody basketball coach was pissed off. Asked me and said, what would you so and so and so on? I said, I went home. He said, I thought you told the crack coach Papa this and Papa that right there. I said, I went home, So he said, track coach is pissed off. And he was, man. He was pissed off. The basketball coach was pissed off. But see, I didn't know what they had done. So the track coach was going to give me a half a scholarship in track. And he was going to give me half a scholarship in basketball. So now, about this, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So now they pissed off. So basketball coach said, he pissed off and he ain't going to give you no scholarship, blah, this and blah, that right there. So now they got to figure a way out. He said, I can't give you no but a half about this. Because he had, I guess, went out and recruited.
Mhm.
So now, I get back, and at the end of the year, I got my grades back. And they had me flunking first aid and PE, and all them subjects like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he called me up and said, you got to come back out here and, in the summer, and go to summer school and make them grades up.
Mhm.
thought about it again. I said, man, I ain't going back out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I called him back up and told him, support. I said, I'm not going to come back. I said, I'm going to go to Valley State, transfer to Valley State.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you ain't going to come back out here and make that? I said, no, I ain't going to come back. And I asked him, I said, how about calling Valley State and tell him that I'm going to be on campus and see if he can give me a scholarship or something like that. So he said, okay. But when I got back to Valley State, I went to Valley State. Man, you didn't have no money. You didn't have hardly nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I went to an office and registered
Mm-hmm.
and applied for a work aid.
Mm-hmm.
And the only work aid I could get was from the track courts.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the track courts, man. I went to him and he said, I only give scholarships, work aids to my boys.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what can you do in track? I said, high jump.
Mm-hmm.
He said, oh yeah, I need a high jumper. So I said, okay. But then they had intramural basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the gym, you're shooting around. Ford, which played baseball, he said, hey man, how about playing on my team, intramural? And he said, we got a tough game coming up. He said, we playing the faculty. And he said, man, SQ was 6'9", they had been beating up on everybody, I didn't know nothing about him. So he said, you want to play with us? I said, yeah, I'll play. So I played that game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I had something like 45.
Mm-hmm.
I shot 45, So they was asking me, well, you play basketball, about this and about that. And I told him, yeah, I played. And I just told him I played at Oklahoma,
Yeah.
And so he said, come by my office. This is after I got there.
Mm-hmm.
And the track coach, they gave me a work aid.
Mm-hmm.
So said, okay. So I went by his office and he said, what's your name, And I was telling him my name. And he said, where you go to school last year? And I said, I went to school in Texas. He said, Texas? He said, I heard something about that. He said, somebody called me. And then I told him. He said, yeah, he called me. He said, go out for basketball, but, I ain't got no scholarships, so I'm still up the creek,
Mm-hmm.
So I went out for basketball. And when time came to come home for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
well, they was going off on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have no scholarship. But he had them other guys on scholarship, some
Mm-hmm.
freshmen and stuff like that, wasn't even playing.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to put y'all name up on the wall. Y'all come to the door and see if y'all going to be on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a guy on there named Lemon.
Mm-hmm.
And Lemon came back and he told me, he said, man, he said, don't have your name on that list. And I said, what? You don't have your name on the list? And then he called all us in. He said, you guys that's not going, be back here on the 26th, which was the day after Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I got home and I said, man, I ain't going back up there.
Mm-hmm.
Day after Christmas, man. And I didn't go back. Some days we can play catch.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I pitch. He said, oh, yeah. So we started going out behind the dormitory there.
Mm-hmm.
Every evening we go out there. Baseball season wasn't going on. Track season was coming in. And we went out there and started throwing. So every day the crowd got bigger and bigger. So one day the baseball coach came around. What the hell going on around here? The guy said, "Coach," they said, "you ought to see that guy that throw." He said, "What are you talking about throw?" He said, "Pitch." He said, "He pitch." And so I was standing out there. He said, you the one that's been keeping up all that noise around here." I said, "Because when we throw, back in there, you could just hear somebody like, you ever slapped on a building and it's tie-out.
Mm-hmm.
So when you throwing the ball up in the building, oh, you get tie-out, tie-out." So he came around there and he said, "Let me see you throw." So what you throw? I said, "Fastball, curve, this and that right there." So let me see you throw. So he said, "Let me see your fastball." So everybody's lined up, from the catcher to the pitcher, they line up basically about from you to the wall, and I'm throwing right there. So when I started throwing, all the guys started backing up, all the way down there. They said, "Man, did you hear that damn ball go by?" He was whistling when he went by. So I was doing tie, tie, tie. So let me see your curve. Curve. He said, "Where you stand?" I said, "Down to it right there." He said, "I'm gonna move you to the athletic down. Then you go out for baseball." Well, baseball. So track season started. Track coach came by there. Every day he would see me out there at baseball. He said, "When you gonna start practicing?" Throwing, but at the same time, I was yanking. His high jumper was his shot put man.
Mm-hmm.
So this dude wore about a 14 or 15 shoe.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent up there. Back then, a 14 or 15 shoe man looked like a big piece of something wrapped around your feet, because you look all swole. So man, I go about it, I was janking. I said, "Man," so he was at practicing on about 3 or 4 feet too, jumping and knocking it down. So every day I had to run, we pitchers just had to run, man. You running you to death. So I'll be janking him every time, I said, "You go by that Jackson, man. You the high jumper, you can't jump no higher than that." And he was always talking about, "MF, you can't jump this high."
Right.
Love it, smell it right there. So I just laugh at him. So one evening, I was running with my baseball spikes and everything on it. And I did him just like I did them guys out in Texas. So he said, "Man," I said, "put that thing up to about 5 feet, man." But I had told the track coach one day when he asked me that, he said, "When you gonna start?" I said, "I didn't want to high jump. I didn't want to run on track. I want to play baseball." So I said, "Coach," I said, "I lied to you." He said, "What you talking about?" I said, "I can't high jump." I told him that. I said, "I just told you that because I didn't have no money. And there wasn't no way I could stay in school and I needed a job." And he said, "Well," he said, I can understand that." I said, "Okay." So now I'm off, right? I just playing baseball, but I had the job. So I didn't see him out there, and I didn't never know, something like that. So when I told Rob, I said, "Rob, when I come back, you put that up on 5 feet." And Rob, you can't jump. You can't jump this. So when Rob came by there, on the way back, I just balled my glove up in my hand and everything, and just, I jumped it. And when I hit the ground, man, Coach Lacker looked like jumped out from behind a building. Just cussing. "You told me you couldn't jump. You got Bobby this and Bobby right there." I just laughed and went on. But that's how I got into baseball up there. And I just played baseball at Valley.
So baseball took you to the Hall of Fame up there?
Baseball and you guys took me to the Hall of Fame up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was it.
So, so if you add the other schools you coached at, do you add anybody else to the list of best players? Who else?
I had All-American over here, Blunt.
Who was that?
Kenny Winston.
Okay.
He went to Alabama.
Okay.
Now he was 6'7".
Uh-huh.
Now he was probably the best ball player I ever coached.
Really?
But the only thing about him is that he played on ability.
Uh-huh.
Like, you could tell him something and coach him, but he would never try to improve, like on his shooting. He just took his streak and, like, he gambled, he did everything.
Mm-hmm.
But man,
Go.
he embarrassed Laterra over here. Laterra came over one day, we was in there practicing, and Kenny is the kind of person that you could never tell him what he couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd just look at you and kind of smile,
Mm-hmm.
So Kenny was in that basketball team, so Laterra came in and said, "Where's that basketball player you supposed to have on there so good?" I said, "There he is, right there." And he said, "Man, I beat you one-on-one." I said, "Laterra, hold up." I said, "Do not play that boy."
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept on, "Oh, coach, I can be here." I said, "Laterra, do not play that boy."
Mm-hmm.
Man, he beat Laterra so bad up in there. But see, Kenny was like that, man. We went down to LSU
Uh-huh.
on a visit, and I took him down to New Orleans to play in the AAU ball. And to start it off, I knew the guys from New Orleans because, we would always go down there and play.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew they had an AAU team down there. But when I called them and said, "I got a boy you need," he said, "Coach, we got a team already." I said, "Man," "you need this boy." He said, "Coach," he said, "we got a team." He said, "We got coaches who are on the team. He's our #1 player."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I don't care who you got on there." I said, "My boy," he said, kept on talking. So they said, "Coach," they said, "meet us in Biloxi. We'll meet you in Biloxi to pick him up." So that weekend I took him over to Biloxi. That was his junior year. And they said, "We'll bring him back Sunday evening." I said, "Yeah, because I got practice Sunday." They said, "We'll have him back." So they got back Sunday and said, "Coach," they said, "where in the hell did you get that boy from?" Because I had told them. They said, "Well, what do he play?" I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They said, "Coach, you ain't got no damn boy to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I said, "I got one." They said, "How tall is he?" I said, 6'7". They said, that's when they said, "Bring him over." Man, when they got back there, I said, "Coach, where in the hell did you get a boy from?" They said, "We're going to Las Vegas next week." They said, "Can we take him?" I said, "Yeah." I got it. They took him out to Las Vegas. So Sonny Vaccaro, you ever heard that name?
Yeah.
Sonny Vaccaro was head of Adidas at the time.
Uh-huh.
So they had another boy in there, which was #1. So Kenny went out to Las Vegas with him. And at the time, Sonny Vaccaro had somebody was #1 out there that he was out there to see in the tournament in Las Vegas. So, as the guys told me that they went up and set up with Sonny Vaccaro, and said the game was going on. And so Kenny was playing, and I guess he was beating him up pretty bad out there. So Sonny Vaccaro said, who in the hell is that out there? Where y'all get him from? And they told him, and he said, that's one of the best boys. That might be the best boy in this camp. So they said Kenny got hurt in the third quarter. I said, yeah. And they said, man, Sonny Vaccaro is crazy about him. I said, well, he got hurt in the third quarter. I said, yeah. I said, well, what did he do? They said, he had 43.
About the third quarter.
Third quarter, he had 43 in the third quarter. About mid-third quarter, he got hurt. So it was on then, you know. And man, he furnished our team, man. He said he was going to sponsor our team. Man, we got shoes, warm-ups, you know, we got everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we won the state. And I asked them, well, they had gave us about 3 pair of shoes, warm-ups, practice stuff for the whole team, boys and girls. So, man, I had so much stuff up there, man. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But when we won the state, I called the guys up that was, you know, supposed to be doing this stuff and told them that we needed a pair of shoes to go to the state. So when we got ready to go to the state, shoes wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Went on to the state, came back, shoes had made it. It was late. So I told them, I said, we're going to be going to all kind of stuff. I said, send us a set of warm-ups. So Blunt's color was purple and white, purple and gray. So I had looked at TV and Kobe Bryant had a warm-up on. Gray, you know, and white. So I said, send us one of them. So they told me they wasn't going to send it, you know, blah, this and blah, that right there. So we went down to New Orleans. They had us down to New Orleans for a Lakers game. So I went down to a Lakers game down there, and I was talking to him. And I said, man, I said, I asked you guys, you know, for this and I asked you guys for that. And I said, you wouldn't send it. Said you didn't have it. I said, now Nike is calling me. Nike wants to sponsor. And I said, I'll just take Kenny and go to Nike. So they went back and told Sonny that I was going to take Kenny out of and put him in Nike. So I was sitting there about 10:30 one night and got a phone call. I said, Coach Haynes. I said, yeah. He said, this is Sonny Vaccaro. You know I'm here. I said, yeah, I know you. And he said, I hear you're going to take your boy and send him to Nike. And then, you know, I told him the story, you know, about what I had. He said, Haynes, he said, I want him to stay with Adidas. He said, this is what I do. He said, this is my phone number, personal phone number. He gave me a personal number. And he said, this is what I want you to do. If you let him stay with Adidas, don't worry about those other guys. He said, you call me directly and tell me what you want. He said, this is what I do. He said, I know Kenny's a senior this year, and we'll give you anything you want. And he said, I'm going to extend it. He said, I'll do this year and next year after he leaves. So, And he said, you just called me. I said, okay. So I got Kenny and Bull, who's on the team. Told him to come out there that Saturday morning. And I said, Kenny, I said, I told him about the deal. And I said, but it's up to you whether you want to go to Nike or Adidas. And I said, but before you make your decision, let me tell you something. I said, all of this stuff we got Adidas. And man, we had so much stuff, man, equipment, shoes, and all that was Adidas. I said, we can't wear that no more. I said, but if you go and stay with Adidas, I said, we're going to get this year and next year. So I said, you'll be helping the school program I was running. I said, well, what you want to do? He said, Coach, what you think I'll do? I said, it's up to you, Kenny. He said, I stay with Adidas. He said, okay. So I called him up and so when they got ready to come by to pick Kenny up, some dude from New York had came in here and zapped him up and took him to Nike. So when they came in, they said, Coach, where your boy? I said, he at home. They said, no, he ain't at home. His mom said somebody came by and picked him up and put him on a plane this morning. So Kenny went with Nike. Man, they messed Kenny up so bad, man, till I was scared to play him in high school. So that's what I was telling you about. By far, Kenny was the best ball player. But he's the most corrupt ball player. So he went to Alabama. Everybody was scared of him. Huggins from Cincinnati at the time, you know who I'm talking about? Yeah. He at West Virginia now. He came down and gave me the scoop and said that if Kenny played with anybody but Auburn or Alabama, he was going to turn him in. So Kenny ended up going to Alabama.
So, who's the best team you coach? All of high school.
You talking about in Mississippi, right?
No, all, your whole.
I guess the best team that I ever coached was Lewis Smith in that bunch.
Now, what year was that?
Dog, when it comes down to numbers, Thomas, I'm bad at numbers.
Who else played on that team?
Man, there's a bunch of little guys that played. No, I'll go back. The best team I played, I had was the Reggie Colley team.
Reggie Colley?
Yeah, John MacArthur, Reggie Colley, James Harris. I had about 8 guys on that team. And they just destroyed people, man. They played Blunt over here. Blunt had the #1 team in the damn nation. And we came over here and they beat us by 1 or 2 points. And then when they came over there, we beat them 1 point. But the tallest player they had was 6'9". And they had about four players on that was D1, went to D1. And we beat them. We gave them the only loss of the year. And they didn't get beat no more until the finals of the state tournament. So.
What about your team? Where you rank your team you took to Jackson with Wilt, Stallworth, all them?
I don't know Thomas.
Cause y'all lost to Jackson in the finals, right? Jackson Murray.
Man, we lost 4 times in Jackson Murray in the final. You didn't know that, did you?
Mm-mm.
One time we lost after the buzzer, after the game was over, we lost. Because just before the buzzer went off, we was down 1 point. And my man went up to shoot. And when the whistle went off, tick, and then the buzzer went off, right?
Mm-hmm.
A referee, man, waved it off and ran to the dressing room. So, when you start talking about games like that, man, it's like, the one game that I really feel bad about now is Micah Seals' senior year.
Mm-hmm.
Micah Seals, Greg Dubose, Earl Sanders, Kimbrough, Al Jackson, and that bunch. We got beat at the buzzer in Jackson.
Really?
And that team, you remember me telling you about, said Lewis Smith and that bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But this was Earl. This was Micah Sears' year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we had beat Gulfport down like they was dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And we played this team from up there, the Delta out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we was down something like 15 points at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back out. And with 11 seconds to go on the clock, we was up 1.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my fault. But I credit with the discipline of the team. And if I told them something, you know, they were gonna do exactly that. So we was at 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
And with 11 seconds to go. No, not 11 seconds to go. About 15 seconds to go. So they was pressing. And, you know, we had something for everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they called timeout. And I knew they was gonna be pressing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, baseline go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew we could get the ball in on baseline go because we had 5 options.
Mm-hmm.
So Micah, I said, you in the go. And then, you know, like, I had Greg, now Kimbrough, I think was to set the pick, you know, on the go man.
Mm-hmm.
So when they got up there and lined up, I had told them we didn't need no shot. I said, Mike, we don't need no points. I said, blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's get the ball in. So when they got out there on the court, and I looked, and I knew it was gonna be open for the layup. So I just told Mike, I said, Mike, it's open, Mike, it's open, it's open, it's open. I wouldn't tell him to shoot because everybody would know what was going on. And so I said, Mike, it's open, it's open. So evidently Mike just thought the play was gonna be open.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got there, he slapped the ball, pop. He slapped the ball, and everybody did their break where they were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike just popped open, wide open, going long. He threw the ball. He threw the ball, and the ball bounced at the free throw line. Mike caught it, and all he had to do was lay it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the closest man was from the end of that wall behind him.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of him shooting the layup, he got the ball and dribbled it back out.
Mm-hmm.
He passed it to Greg Dubose. You know Greg Dubose?
Mm-hmm.
He passed to Greg Dubose, which was all Big 8,
Mm-hmm.
and shot free throws like everything. So he passed the ball to Greg. Greg, like, they fouled him. So Greg went to the free throw line, and I told everybody else to get back. And set him up where to be a zone trap full court, but not to foul.
Mm-hmm.
So Greg shot. It was 11 seconds to go. He missed.
Mm-hmm.
The boy caught the ball. The center caught the ball at the free throw line, at the baseline, like this is out of bounds right here. And he was holding the ball out of bounds like that, looking at his coach up there. And I get what I said, 11 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Greg went from the free throw line. The boy was holding the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Greg slapped it. Pow! And the ball almost fumbled. He almost fumbled it out of bounds, which should have been about no more than 6 seconds left to go, but the clock didn't start. That was the key. So
we're still sitting up with 11 seconds.
he's still sitting on 11 seconds. He was holding the ball. So the boy threw the ball to their best player at the free throw line. And he dribbled the ball all the way back up over to the side. He was coming right up by me. And I told Greg, he was the man to keep it from coming back to the middle. Kimbrell was the man that was supposed to be stopping him, slowing him up. He dribbled the ball all the way over there. They came over and had trapped him. And he dribbled the ball all the way back to the middle of the floor, down to the top of the circle, and shot. When he shot, the ball was about halfway, the buzzer went off. Cotton flew in the gym for about 30 minutes. About 30 minutes, man. So we was out of that. Guess who won the state that year?
Them? Who?
Gulfport.
Really? And y'all have been beating Gulfport all year?
About 6 times. Man, they swore, man. Everybody over there said, man, when we lost, they said they saw Jenkins out in the street hopping and jumping. So that was it, man.
So was that a little get back when we got broke their streak over there?
Oh, man. You have to know the history of the game, man. My first game playing against Gulfport, man, they had a powerhouse over there. And I had come up to Moss Point my first year. But my first year, Pascagoula down there. Pascagoula's coach. They interviewed him in the paper, and I had been beating everybody up in junior high. And they said McKernan, that was his name, he's about 6'11". So McKernan said, in the paper, they said, yeah. They said, Haynes has been over there in junior high. They said, but he's coming over here with the big boys now. Let's see how he do. And I said, I beat him about 6 games in a row that year. And when the first game I played Gulfport, he had a good team. So he beat me 115-84. I never forget that. And during the game, he said, like when the game just got out of hand, I put the second string team in there. He left his
Start.
man, he just beating us down. Till finally, I said, time out, I kept looking at him, I thought that he would pull and put his B teams in there. But he left his first stringers and then they just beating the crap out of him. That's how they won all the scores. So I said, time out. And I said, you guys come out. I said, first thing, go back in. That was Glenn Green and the boys, So I said, first thing, go back in. So when I pulled the JV out and the first string was going back in there, he looked down at me like that and he started putting them in there, So like we sitting that door right there, we sitting right there for a pod. So I looked at him and told him, I said, don't take them out I said, because sooner or later, I said, I'm gonna get you down. And I said, I'm not pulling.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a chance to do that on it. And man, Burt Jenkins, every tournament, he would make sure he played Moss Point first. That was the first 2 years, you know. So after that third year, it was over there. And I didn't go to the meeting, but he got up and said he needed games. And he said, I'll play anybody with Moss Point. He got it where he was dodging us, man. So that was it, man. So when you guys beat him, man, it was just part of the prediction, you know, that I had told him. And then when Lewis Smith and them got it, man, they was beating him down so bad, man. The crowd, man, was hollering. You beat him up like that right there, you still pressing? And I looked back at him and told him, I said, well, this is my second string that's playing out there. I said, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Put him in the zone, and then when I get ready for him to get back out there and play my game, they ain't get no training that way.
Right. So let me ask you this. Who was the toughest player you had to coach against?
I would say Chris Jackson, but Green neutralized Chris Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
The toughest player I played against was a Louisiana player. And he went to pro. And he did the same thing in pro that he did against us. That was my first year when I had Glenn Green in that bunch.
Mm-hmm.
We played teams out of Louisiana because we couldn't get no schedule in Moss Point.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had to come back to Moss Point, go back to the Moss Point game, I guess, Calvin Johnson in Gulfport.
Calvin Johnson.
You don't know about Calvin Johnson, do you?
Mm-hmm.
He's about 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
Man, he was a beast. That was when John and Reggie and all of them played.
Okay.
Who was the toughest guy you played against?
Toughest guy I played against.
Probably the guy from Biloxi, right?
Ratliff?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably Ratliff.
Yeah.
Or Othello.
Well, you know, Othello, Anderson,
Yeah.
and the other guy. They had 3 guys on that team.
Yeah, they had Ronnie Henderson, Othello, and Jesse Pate.
Pate was the toughest one of all of them.
Yeah, but I had to be down in the trenches with Othello. I
Yeah.
had 4 or 5 by halftime.
But see, in that game, Othello should have been thrown out of the game. Can you remember what happened? I can. You had 4 fouls, who played him after that? Nellis.
No, yeah.
Nellis did one good job on it, and they were letting Othello elbow
Elbow,
and
yeah.
everything. He should have been out of the game a long time ago because we defense Henderson up.
Yeah,
And guess who kept him in the game? Pate.
Jesse Pate, yeah.
We should have beat him that year.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we should have beat Lawrence County that year
Lawrence County had a big team that year too.
with Eric Dampier.
Yeah, Damper.
They cheated us in Gulfport.
And they cheated you guys in Jackson against Ocala. Starwood was on that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. If Star Wars would have played any that night at all, we would have won. But can you remember the incident that happened?
In that Merle game?
Oh,
Oh,
you remember? Can you remember what happened that year?
yeah.
Now, the very one that was raising all the hell, because I wouldn't let them go through my thing and have those socks. Remember that?
Right.
So Reginald went in there and got some socks,
Mm-hmm.
and I made him put them back.
Mm-hmm.
And his thing was, how come we got all these socks in here and can't wear them? I said, I gave you room, I gave everybody the socks.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, don't take them home, put them on the pen.
Mm-hmm.
And so they was all gonna quit. Now, when we got up to that tournament, and I was issuing equipment, I gave everybody a brand new pair of socks.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I told him, I said, that's what this was for, right here. That's what the socks and that was for.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we came to games like this, that I would be able to issue you good looking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, when we got ready, when I went in at halftime, I told everybody up. So everybody came up. And I looked, no Reggie. Can you remember what Reggie was?
Mm-mm.
He was in the bathroom with them latrines on that,
Mm-hmm.
in the corner, sitting up there, behind that latrine. He froze on us that night
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't hit nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't hit nothing in that game. And I'm talking about he was wide open, and them shots that he was known to shoot,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't hit nothing. So if Reggie had been hitting that night, we would have beat him to death because Henderson was locked down.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys had did a good job on Othello. And Pate was the only one that was hurting us because I really didn't prepare for him because I didn't think he was that good.
Mm-hmm. Toughest coach you had to face?
It's hard for me to say the toughest coach that I faced, because did not I'm never do no more than what I expect them to do.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was the home officials of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I could prepare for any of them and have a good game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it would never take but one or two bad calls
Mm-hmm.
to get them over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that was really getting over the hump was Gulfport, Harrison Central, Biloxi.
Mm-hmm.
They had it going. So just to say somebody did something to me that I didn't prepare for,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could just say, I guess it's weak for me to say and blame somebody, but my biggest thing was the officials
Mm-hmm.
calling the game
Mm-hmm.
against Moss Point. It's a lot of stuff went in there, but I just kind of keep it to myself. But I'll tell you like this right here. Anytime an athletic director, which is supposed to be head of the thing,
Mm-hmm.
come up and say, we want to win, but we don't need to win. And then you get the worst scenario of calling that you ever want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time we'll win anyway.
Mhm.
But that was it.
Yeah, I know we knew we was going into game with 2 ticks already.
Not
Before
too-
the ball
not-
even jumped
not-
up.
not to text. It was. I don't want to get into it because right now I get pissed off about a lot of stuff that happened that I knew was going on.
Mhm.
And a lot of more people knew it was going on, but they didn't do nothing about it. You know?
Mhm.
I'm gonna just tell you like this, Thomas. All those years I coached at Moss Point,
Mhm.
I never had an administrator to tell me I did a good job.
Really?
All the time, it was something bad or something that I didn't do or something that should have been done.
Mhm. So I think what a lot of people don't actually know as it relates to you, aside from the coaching, was the development of men, like taking boys to men. Cause I know you would come get us in the summertime and have us with you, doing little labor jobs and just hanging around. But what it did was it kept us off the street. We wasn't able to be
Yeah.
in no trouble in the summertime,
Yeah.
you know. And nowadays, like as a parent, I don't have any Coach Haynes out there that I can say, you know, there's a person out there that's got the best interest of my child. Uh,
It wasn't like that. It was like, if you can remember, it was all the way about life. And you might can remember me telling you, I said it's home, school, and basketball.
yeah, we had to get our grades to play.
I said it's home, school, and basketball. Because I figure what you're doing at home, you're going to bring it to the classroom. And what you bring to the classroom, you're going to try to bring it to the court. And if I found out that you were doing something at home wrong, hey, we're gonna deal with that. And I'm gonna deal with the class conduct. And then I'm gonna deal with, say, being on time, responsibilities that in the classroom. Well, basically, I said some of the things you can't teach, that you're gonna have to be a man and do it yourself. And one thing that you can't teach is maturity.
Mhm.
You could be at home and your parents tell you, say, this is your job, getting up, you know, you got to do this right here, take the trash out and stuff like that. And every day they have to remind you, you got to do this and you got to do that, you got to make your bed up, you got to clean your room up and stuff like that. And that goes on for so long. And then one morning you wake up, you get up, clean your room, take the papers and all that, clean the trash cans out, whatever you're supposed to do, and go ahead on. Well, you might not think nothing about it, but that's the first form of what? Maturity.
Mhm.
You're doing what you're supposed to do without somebody telling you to do it, you know. Or you go to class and you sit up there and you do your work, and all of this is mature. And the one thing you don't never know when it's gonna kick in. You don't never know when you're gonna wake up. It's just like when the kids get in trouble, and every day you see that parents out there at school, and you all the time in trouble, and you see your parents is laying up in there trying to get you to do this and get you to do that. And then all they trying to do is, what, get you through school and graduate. And every morning you get up, you go in there, and food is in there, cornflakes and all of that kind of stuff for you to eat. And when you walk across that stage, you hear them in the room and then they be laughing and joking and going on. And you get up and go in there and look in the box. Ain't no cornflakes in there. Ain't no milk in there. And you are, Mom, ain't no milk in here. The first thing they'll say, get a job. Yeah, get a job, you know. You be around there and say, hey boy, come here. Ain't no boy. I said, come here. I said, you ain't no boy. Yeah, I'm a man. I said, okay. I said, are you paying the water bill? No. Paying the light bill? No. You buying food? No. See, you a man? I said, you're not doing that? No. So you ain't no man then. A man is going to do all of these things, be responsible. I said, you come in my gym, you're going to be late. I said, we're going to start practice at 9 o'clock. You come in at 9 o'clock. Hey, that's when we start. I said, when you get a job, you're going to be on time. So a lot of times, you know, like, you was late, the door be locked. You come to the door, beating on the door. First thing I say is, you're too late for the day and too early for tomorrow. So you're going to miss practice. And when you come back, you're going to make that practice up. How you going to make it up? You'll never make your practice up. That's the reason I say, if you miss my practice, it's something you're going to miss. I don't care if you think you know everything that we're doing. I said, but I'm going to say something and I'm going to do something in the next practice. You won't know what it is. So you're going to get your butt up and be practicing. And then another thing that I was always saying is, of course my parents are going out of town. I'm going with them. I'm going to miss practice. I said, why you have to go out of town? My parents want me to go. I said, okay. Go ahead on. I said, but you gonna miss practice, right? I said, just like missing work. I said, you don't get paid for that. Go. So, how many times you know somebody missed practice? Boom. Exactly.
We were playing now.
So how many times, man, you don't come to practice just because you want to stay at home? Dude.
So, do you think this generation, you be able to coach?
You could coach to a certain extent, but right now, it's not the kids, it's the parents.
How so?
Because if you pinch one of them right now at school, the parents gonna cry for them at home. When I say that, is that a kid know what he's supposed to do. It's just like Matua say, if a teacher say something to a kid now, first thing he say, I'm gonna tell my dad, I'm gonna tell my mom. Take for instance, my last year, I was working over at BC Rain over there. I went up to the office one evening and a boy came in there. I'm gonna tell my dad this here and I'm gonna tell my dad that he'll be up here to get you tomorrow. He wasn't talking to me, but he was talking, I was sitting up there listening at him. So I asked him, I said, well, what did you do? Oh, he wouldn't let me sit next to that girl. I said, what? I said, he made me go back to my seat. He wouldn't let me. I said, what? I said, was that your seat? No. But he just didn't want me talking to that girl up there. I'm telling my dad. I said, man, are you serious? You gonna tell your dad? I said, when your dad find that out, you know what he ought to do? He ought to beat you down like you stole something. I said, you know what? I said, Dr. King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, I said, they'll be turning over their grave right now if they know what they really, really did. I said, do you think he would be satisfied with you doing this right here? He got beat, he got bit, he got kicked in jail, he got drugged in the street, he got all of these things for you, and you sitting up here talking about you gonna tell your dad because the man would not do that. Kids are just different and they wired different. It's simply because a teenager now, mom, he's probably what? A teenager. His mom is about 20 something, most of them. And the thing now is that they want to make it better for you than it was for them, but they're not getting no discipline in that.
What up, man?
That girl look like a mom. Don't she? Okay.
So, okay, so let's transition back to when you was in your prime.
My prime?
And you was playing basketball. Did you play the league ball around Mount Point Pascagoula area?
Yeah.
Now, what was that like?
A lot of fussing.
A lot of fussing.
I killed everybody. I killed everybody back then.
When you say killed, how many points you think you put up in the league?
It's depending. I think
What's the most points you put up in the league?
72.
So you hit them for 72 one night. Did they have a 3-point line?
No.
So you hit them 72 without the 3-point line.
I played a team from Motion Spring. Back then, I guess they call it semi-pro ball, and they was football player over there in Ocean Spring. They came over one night, and we playing at Magnolia, and I shot 70 something that night, and it was in the paper the next day, and the next night. I was in the gym sitting down, and two white guys came in from Ocean Spring, and they said, we want to see the guy. They were sitting right in front of me, and they turned around and they said, we want to see the guy that shot them 70-some points last night. And they said, do you know him? I said, yeah. They said, well, when he come out, he said, let us know, let us know. So I sat there and I talked to him a while, you know, and I was sitting there watching the game, you know. And so when the game was over and I was getting ready to go to the dressing room, they said, well, hey, I thought you were going to show us the guy that shot the point. And I just looked at him, I said, you looking at him? They said, you? I said, yeah. So that night I shot 54. I shot 54 the next night. But in them leagues down there, man, I shoot 40 something, man. Wouldn't even be no problem, you know.
Now, who was your toughest competition in the league?
Man, hell no.
You ain't had no. You ain't had no competition.
I mean, you know, it'd be guys that could play, but I always laugh, you know, and say, you know, and say I was the most hated guy, you know, to ever play ball down there, because no matter who we played, they always cheered against me for the other team. It was always, man, like, man, I just shoot, man, all the stuff that they doing now,
Mm-hmm.
like drawing fouls, like if you a kid, they swipe through and all of that kind of stuff. Faking and letting them jump and foul, man. I shoot 20-some points, man, and free throws down there.
Mm.
Yeah. But it was always, man, like a hostile environment when I was playing. It's good, man.
So let me ask you this: when so you was back in Moss Point in what year?
I came to Moss Point and I started staying in Moss Point after I finished school in '65.
In '65.
Yeah.
So what was Moss Point like around '65?
You talking about the team?
No, the city.
Oh man. Back then it was about 25,000 people in Moss Point.
Really?
Yeah, but it was that many working in shipyard.
Uh-huh.
So sports, everything I loved to do or like to do was right there in Moss Point, like baseball, football,
Mm-hmm.
fishing. I would go hunting, and all the recreation sports, man, was right there in Moss Point.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an uncle my age and my size, and we were so much alike they couldn't even hardly tell us apart. We both about the same size, height, and everything, and we grew up kind of together, so we was always together, man. And so that was why I was in Moss Point.
Mm-hmm.
Is that my uncle and me, we would always be together,
Mm-hmm. What was aside from the daytime fishing, hunting, playing sports, what was the nightlife like in Moss Point back in the day? What y'all do for fun? Y'all had clubs around Moss Point, Pascagoula?
Man, it was like clubs, man. My mother ran a club. And like, man, all night. Be all night clubs. And man, the town, like on the weekend, like today, Friday, man, it was so much work in Moss Point and Pascagoula then, like you had, oh man, if somebody didn't have no job, it's because they didn't want to work. Because you had HK Polos, man, plants over there in Escatawba, about 4 or 5 out there in Bayou Casar, fishing, fish plants, cat food plants, Ingles. If Ingles had 25,000 people working in there, they had coming from everywhere working at Ingles, But it wasn't no problem for no job, no nothing, man. And I would always tell the guys that come there, I said, man, they said, we're going to come in and stay 2 or 3 days. I said, man, if you come in and stay 2 or 3 days, you'll never leave. And it was just like that. And guys would come in and never leave. Town would grow. And as far as sports, man.
All right,
As far as sports, man. I guess Moss Point sports, Moss Point High School sports was down. It was Magnolia before integration.
Mm-hmm.
Magnolia over there. And I know when I finished, Mr. Sieben had promised me a job at Magnolia because I was go there, all the time, helping out with the basketball team with Mr. Ward. And then after that, it was, I got a chance to coach the only baseball team they ever had over there.
So as far as the Moss Point, Pascagoula area nightlife, did the Chitlin circuit ever come through there? Did they have anybody famous come through there?
Oh man, You need to sit down and listen to this right here, man.
Go ahead, tell it.
Every artist that you could imagine back then, black, was in that area. You take James Brown. James Brown, my mother ran a club on the Avenue. James Brown would come next door to get a room, and he couldn't pay for the room until after he performed. That's just how raw it was back then. You would see James Brown, all these artists, Joe Henry, all the black artists was in the Moss Point, Pascagoula area at that time. It was like every week somebody was there. So all of these singers, man, you could be riding down the road, a highway, and somebody would come by there in a van. One of these artists would just pass you in a van. You know, that's the way they traveled in, back and forth. But man, entertainment was number one in those days. And like I was saying, like the basketball was always down, and we didn't ever beat nobody. But I guess in about '68, Billy Wayne came over there from Pascagoula and picked football up. So right now, if you see Moss Point Stadium, man, it was a baseball field. That's what a football field was.
Really?
Yeah. Billy Wayne came in there, man. Boy, Billy Wayne, night and day, he'd be billing on that football field. So that part in the back there, you see that water back there?
Yeah.
It came all the way up to the back of that fence.
The water came up to the back of the fence. So they filled it in with dirt.
He filled it in like that. And he made that practice field like that. That football field you see out there right there, it was just natural grass and the water system, all of that kind of stuff. He put all that in that field house. He built all of that stuff around there. So it really should be what? Billy Wayne's what? Stadium.
Yeah.
And they just got his field house down there. It's like I say, anybody can come in and move the furniture around, but when it comes down to building that foundation and getting everything started, hey, he was the one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what would you want to pass on to future generations as it relates to you? Like, what words would you have for future generations?
It just be hard work, coming in and doing what you want to do and work at it, no matter what happened. What you feel like or what other people feel like it. If that's what you want to do, you just have to work at it and build it, and build. So I guess that's the way I was, is that after I got to Moss Point and worked at Mayo for 9 years, it wasn't a day that I didn't think about being a basketball coach at Moss Point High. And I just stayed there and never wanted to go nowhere else. And even though there's a lot of people wanted me to leave, I stayed there until I got ready to leave. So it's just what you want to do and your goal. You set your goal, what you want to do, and then you do it. Yeah?
Well, we definitely appreciate you, Coach. You touched a lot of lives. You turned a lot of boys into men. Like whether they want to acknowledge it or not, you played a major part in the lives of a lot of us.
Appreciate it, Thomas.
We appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. Unless you got anything else you want to say.
Really, I appreciate, the compliments I get. And I really appreciate it. And I get a chance to sit back, and think about all the things that I really had to scuffle and do. And see that so many guys, that came out good. And that's my enjoyment. That's my enjoyment, man. Well, you had some good ones and you had some bad ones. I mean, everything is not always good. And everything don't really just work out like you want to. But if you can get it and accomplish most of it, not being satisfied, but just knowing that you had a part in it and doing it. That's it. That's it.